in the middle of the clay court season, and we're currently in Madrid, but the French Open entry list has actually come out for the men and the women. Let's go have a look at the ladies' entry list, though, because there are some big names that are actually having to play qualifying unless they get a wild card.
Well, it wasn't easy. I think handling the emotions, the tension, the nerves of first round, it's never easy, and especially when I played her a couple of months ago and I lost, so I was really looking forward for the revenge in this case.
Just days ago, Paula Badosa looked locked into the French Open 2026 main draw until everything unraveled. In a sudden twist, Alex Eala stepped into the spotlight, seizing the opportunity and sparking debate across the tennis world. Was it rankings drama, behind-the-scenes decisions, or pure timing? The unexpected shakeup has fans questioning what really happened and whether this moment signals a deeper shift in the balance of power in women's tennis right now.
Of course, I'm excited for the Grand Slams ahead, Roland Garros. I know that I will be in the main draw, so I'm very excited about that. My first time to be in the main draw, so it's a new experience and everything to gain.
When the French Open entry list was released, it didn't just surprise, it felt like the sport had flipped its own script overnight. At the heart of it, Paula Badosa found herself confronting an unexpected setback far sooner than anticipated. Meanwhile, Alex Eala stepped into a coveted spot, one that typically demands years of steady results, ranking points, and persistence to secure at this level.
Alex Eala is selling out stadiums whether she's playing singles or doubles, tournaments where the fan attendance wasn't that high in previous years. If I was a tournament director, I would do anything for her to be at my tournament. I'd also make sure that she's on schedule every day, so doubles and singles, because then people come to watch Alex and then stay for more tennis. But yeah, you can see it in the crowd numbers whether Alex is playing or not. The Filipinos are showing up for their girl, and I love it.
Here's where it gets divisive for some and thrilling for others. The French Open 2026 main draw didn't just feature Alex Eala, it granted her direct entry, skipping the grueling qualifying rounds entirely. Those same rounds force seasoned players into relentless battles just to reach the spotlight. Yet somehow, the rising Filipina talent was already placed among the elite, raising eyebrows and intensifying conversations across the tennis world about how it all unfolded.
I mean, you love playing in Miami.
I like it. I love it, especially because of the fans. There's a lot of Latino fans, Spanish fans, so I feel a little bit like playing at home, and I love it, honestly. They push me and they motivate me super. So
After Indian Wells, you went to Austin, made the semifinals there, picked up some nice wins. What kind of confidence did that give you coming into this event?
Well, I needed that, especially for my body, to play 4 matches in a row with no day off, and seeing that my body was responding day after day. After the 4th one was tough, but I think I need to put my body into that situations.
That alone turns heads, but next to Paula Badosa's situation, it feels like an unexpected twist few saw coming. Badosa isn't a fading figure struggling to stay relevant, she's still very much part of the conversation at the top.
Follow the calendar for me is an amazing part, because I now have the ranking where the calendar kind of dictates where I go. So I've been to the most amazing courts and been able to play in the most amazing atmospheres. Of course, Miami, I've been able to play on Wimbledon Center Court, which is my dream, and that's been amazing, and so many more, yeah.
You're probably top 2 or 3 with, I think, the most loyal fan base in the world. Wherever you go, you have some of the most amazing supporters behind you. What kind of energy does that give you as you travel around the world trying to make them proud?
It gives me so much motivation.
Paula Badosa is no fringe name fighting to stay relevant. She's a former top contender who has pushed through injuries, rebuilt her ranking with persistence, and earned a reputation as one of the tour's most relentless competitors. Her aggressive baseline game and mental toughness have carried her deep into some of the sport's biggest stages. So when a player of that caliber scans the draw and sees a rising talent leap ahead into a main draw position, the reaction isn't outrage, it's a quiet, hard-to-explain disbelief. But step back and the picture starts to shift. The decision begins to reflect less about tradition and more about where the sport is heading. Alex Eala hasn't followed the slow, methodical climb fans typically expect. Her rise has been fast, visible, and difficult to ignore. Long before French Open discussions even began, her momentum was already building, especially during the early hardcourt stretch of the season. By the time the Australian Open arrived, something unusual surrounded her matches. Crowds weren't just attending, they were arriving early, packing smaller courts beyond capacity, and turning routine fixtures into must-watch moments. Social media amplified the buzz, showing walkways filled with fans hoping to catch a glimpse of a player who, on paper, wasn't even expected to headline.
Create waves. I mean, she's an inspiration for an entire nation and truly fights for every point to kind of spread that inspiration beyond tennis.
She does such a good job. She's a superstar, right?
Yeah.
And she handles that so well. Looks like she embraces it. She never seems to look too nervous, in my opinion. I feel like she likes when the Filipino crowds swarm the court. She shows them so much love, shows the world so much love. So it's nice to see a player so young and so talented as herself actually kind of handle all that pressure in such a positive way.
That kind of reaction isn't normal. It goes beyond routine hype. It's what happens when a player connects with audiences on a level that rankings alone can't explain. And as the season progressed, that connection only grew stronger. By the time the tour reached the Miami Open, Alex Eala was no longer just an intriguing prospect, she had become a full-fledged storyline. Her performance there marked a clear turning point. Not because everything suddenly clicked into perfection, but because her approach shifted. She played with visible belief. Her shot selection became more decisive, her movement more assured, and her willingness to challenge top opponents signaled a new level of intent. It answered the question critics often pose about rising players: can they truly compete with the elite when it matters? Almost overnight, the narrative changed. She was no longer labeled as promising, but as dangerous. Even at the Indian Wells Open, where she didn't dominate, she demonstrated something just as valuable: growth. Observers noted her improved tactical awareness, her ability to construct points proactively, and a growing composure under pressure that hinted at something bigger taking shape.
Middle of the clay court season, and we're currently in Madrid, but the French Open entry list has actually come out for the men and the women. Let's go have a look at the ladies' entry list, though, because there are some big names that are actually having to play qualifying unless they get a wild card. Starting on the women's side of things, the top 10 that are going to be involved are actually the top 10 of the rankings. So Sabalenka, Rybakina, and Goff-Swiatek will round out that top 4 for now, of course. The seeds don't get locked in until the week before, so this could still change, but those players are all the top 4 for now. Then, of course, Pegula, Anisimova, Svitolina, Paolini round out the top 8. Taking a look at the top 32.
All of this carries more weight now because tennis is no longer judged solely by rankings or results. It's shaped by trajectory, influence, and a player's ability to capture global attention. That's where things get even more compelling. Modern Grand Slam events like the French Open aren't just competitions, they're global entertainment stages. They rely on players who bring narratives, attract new audiences, and expand the sport's reach into untapped markets. Alex Eala fits that shift perfectly. As a Filipina athlete rising on the world stage, she represents more than individual success, she carries the energy of an entire region eager to see one of their own break through. That kind of connection adds value that goes beyond match results. When respected voices in tennis recognize that potential, it resonates far beyond casual praise. And then there's Maria Sharapova, who understands what it means to transcend the sport. Her acknowledgement of Eala isn't just about talent, it's about presence and cultural impact. Sharapova built a career that extended into fashion, business, and global branding. So when she identifies similar qualities in a rising player, people take notice, and the conversation shifts in a meaningful way.
That was not easy today, was it? That opening set was something else.
Yes, it was definitely not easy. She was playing great, and I was struggling to find my rhythm a little bit. So, I was trying to play some longer rallies to get my rhythm. But yes, I was a little bit struggling in the first set.
Did you know much about her before you took to the court? Did you see much tape of her playing?
Not much. I mean, I didn't know her. I knew that she was Spanish. I knew that my coach told me that she likes to run around forehand.
Put it all together, and the French Open decision starts to look less like a risk and more like a calculated move. It's no longer just about what players have achieved, but about what they are becoming. Still, that perspective doesn't make it any easier for Paula Badosa to accept. From her side, this isn't about marketability or global reach, it's about years of effort, battles fought on court, and the belief that performance should remain the ultimate measure. Badosa has worked through injuries that disrupted her momentum, fought her way back into contention, and built a level of respect few players attain. Yet in a single moment, the spotlight shifts. The narrative moves away from her comeback and towards someone else's emergence. Right now, Alex Eala holds both momentum and attention. She carries the energy of a rising player, backed by performances that continue to draw eyes, along with the global appeal tournaments increasingly value. At the same time, her journey isn't flawless, which adds another layer to her story. There have been inconsistencies, dips in level, and moments where inexperience became visible reminders that her rise is still unfolding in real time.
Her ceiling when it comes to all these different surfaces, because we're still getting such a small delta of what we're able to see of Alex Eala, being that it's only her second year out here on tour. So, like you said, getting more comfortable on the clay court surfaces. We're going to see her on the grass, and having more and more years out here on tour, that makes you feel more comfortable moving from hard courts that we just saw at Indian Wells, Miami, to the clay court circuit, and making that transition a lot smoother than what we've seen at the start. It's not like she's gone goose egg. She's got a couple of wins, but it's still a lot to improve there.
Rather than weakening her appeal, those imperfections make Alex Eala more compelling. Fans aren't watching a finished product, they're witnessing a player grow in real time, with every match adding another layer to her story. That sense of evolution draws people in, giving them something to follow beyond just results. Now the focus shifts to clay, and everything changes. The French Open played at Roland Garros is notoriously unforgiving. It demands patience, endurance, and mental strength capable of testing even the most experienced competitors. Points stretch into grueling rallies, and matches can pivot on a single lapse in concentration. For Eala, entering the stage as a main draw player alters the psychological stakes. She's no longer chasing entry, she's expected to perform. That shift brings both opportunity and pressure. Preparation has reportedly intensified, with emphasis on adapting her game to clay's unique demands. Sharper movement, smarter shot construction, and peak physical conditioning. Success here doesn't just mean winning matches. It shapes narratives, influences sponsorships, and defines a player's place in the global conversation. For someone already commanding this level of attention, a breakthrough could amplify everything and its impact would be impossible to ignore.
Out of the 2026 Australian Open, where there were extraordinary scenes this morning as Filipino player Alexandra Eala was greeted by hundreds of Filipino fans during her practice session out the back of Melbourne Park. Eala is number 49 in the world, and she's really captivated the hearts and minds of the Filipino community here in Melbourne after she became the first Filipino player to win a Grand Slam match at the US Open in 2025.
That brings everything back to the central question quietly surrounding the entire situation. Is this the beginning of a real shift in women's tennis, where emerging names like Alex Eala start reshaping the established order? Or is it just a surge of attention that will eventually fade, restoring the usual hierarchy? Even more pointedly, how do players like Paula Badosa adapt in a sport where reputation alone no longer guarantees visibility or control of the narrative? What's already clear is that the decision stands. The French Open has set its stage, and whether it sparks agreement or debate, the future is now part of the present. The focus shifts entirely to what happens on court. The real test is whether Eala can validate the beliefs surrounding her on tennis's toughest clay stage, or whether the pressure exposes how hard it is to turn rising potential into lasting achievement under global scrutiny. Her transition is happening live, match by match. And with that rise comes a new reality: every opponent is now targeting her momentum. Each contest becomes more than a game. It becomes a challenge to her consistency, her mindset, and the idea that hype can ever substitute for proven results at the highest level.
vibes. You talk about this being a global sport. How about the Filipino fans? For Alex Eala has become an absolute phenomenon on the courts. This is an early Verizon vantage point on TC Live. Everywhere she goes, she gets swarmed by her fans, Coco.
Swarmed is right, Steve. And look, this is the great thing. The security guard fumbled the rope, and that was almost the worst part of the event. But you can get as close and personal with your favorite players, and that's why I always say this event, the BNP Paribas Open, is the best fan experience you can possibly get.
In tennis, rising players often face their hardest tests not against top seeds, but against those ranked just below them, experienced competitors skilled at exposing inconsistency and driven to shut down emerging hype. This is exactly where the French Open becomes more than just another stop for Alex Eala. It becomes a defining examination of identity. Her aggressive instincts have powered much of her recent rise, but the real challenge now is balance, knowing when to attack and when to construct points with patience. Get it right, and she becomes extremely difficult to contain. Get it wrong, and that same aggression can quickly turn into unforced errors and lost momentum. At the same time, players like Paula Badosa bring another layer of tension. Experienced and competitive, they often respond strongly when they feel overlooked or challenged by the spotlight shifting elsewhere. That contrast sets up a compelling dynamic. The real intrigue comes when those two forces meet, the hunger of a rising star and the pride of an established competitor refusing to step aside quietly. In those moments, tennis becomes unpredictable, matches turn into statements, and entire career narratives can shift in the space of a single encounter.
Great. I think the intensity was really high throughout the whole match, so I'm really happy to have been able to pull through. Yeah.
You were fantastic on your serve today. You won 76% first serve points, saved 5 out of 6 break points, so you put yourself in good position. What did you do particularly well on your service games?
I think that was one of the things going into the match that I really had to focus on, was a good percentage of first serves. I know Anastasia is a big hitter, so I think that helped with my match today. And
then there is the crowd factor, which seems to follow Alex Eala wherever she competes. The French Open is famous for its passionate, sometimes unpredictable atmosphere, and there is little reason to expect anything different here. Based on her earlier tournaments, she is unlikely to walk into quiet conditions. Momentum builds fast around players who show emotion, and Eala has already demonstrated an ability to connect with fans in a way that turns matches into shared moments rather than routine contests. Still, the real challenge is not the attention itself, but how she manages it once play begins. Because in a Grand Slam main draw, especially one as demanding as Roland Garros, expectations do not ease, and gradually they arrive immediately and stay present from the first serve to the final point. There is no adjustment period. And somewhere in Paris, as the clay courts prepare for another chapter of tennis history, one question remains in the background. Will this tournament be remembered as the moment a new star fully introduced herself to the world, or as a reminder of how unforgiving the path to the top becomes when potential finally collides with reality?